Okay, so it's 8:30, so let's begin. First of all, a very good evening to everyone, and thanks a lot to join us today. It's a Friday evening, I know, but I won't take long. It'll be a half an hour session where we will be looking into various aspects of where your career can go if you choose business analysis as a profession. So, without any more uh, delay, let's start. So today in this brief 30-minute session, what we will be covering is primarily an introduction to business analysis. We'll try to understand what business analysis is. We'll have an introduction to or we'll have an understanding of business analysis and its general professional experience, meaning what are the core competencies, what are the skills that you need for your professional experience as a business analyst. We will also take a look at how to become a business analyst, and then we'll evaluate or we will go through the scope of the domain. So, business analysis is a simple word, but the scope is varied, and we will have a look at the complete scope of it. And then finally, we will look at the career paths that are available that you can take to have a successful career as a business analyst. Before we begin, let me give you a quick introduction about myself. So, my name is Pawan Vedula. I am I have around 10 plus years of professional experience, out of which 8 plus is in the business analysis domain. I'm an agile enthusiast and also a Scrum certified product owner. And my primary domain is content solutions. So that's my passion. I have worked in content solutions in multiple companies for over a period of 8 years. You can always connect with me on my LinkedIn account, which is available on screen. So linkedin.com, Pawan-Vedula, you can search it. And you can also contact me on email if you have any follow-up questions. Okay, so now that the introductions are done, let's jump into the session. So let's talk some business analysis. What is business analysis? Well, what do you see in this image? A girl balancing on a tightrope. That's the life of a business analyst. Let me explain. So, business analysis is basically a balancing act wherein on one side you have the development team, which provides solutions, or any technical team which provides real world solutions. And on the other hand, you have the business stakeholders who come up with real world problems that need solutioning. So as you can see, the tightrope itself is business analysis. Walking on the tightrope is business analysis. And balancing both the sides is you or me, which is the business analyst. And we don't have to do this alone. So we have some tools and techniques. Imagine this girl walking on the rope without, barefoot. It would have been much more difficult. So what is she doing? She's using a cycle rim to have more balance. So that's agile. So agile is a methodology. We will not go too deep into agile, but agile is a methodology which is used by business analysts across the world. It helps us do our jobs in a structured and easy fashion. And on top of all of that is CBAP. So CBAP is nothing but a certification provided by a premier institution for all business analysts known as IIBA. So if you want to be a business analyst, that should be your aspiration to get a certification, a CBAP certification. But more about that later, because as this is an introductory session, I'll not go too deep into CBAP or Agile. For that, register for the course and you'll be able to understand the details of both CBAP and Agile. Now, as I said, business analysis is a balancing act, but there's more to it. It's basically a practice of enabling change in an enterprise. So the first thing that needs to be done is to understand the needs of an enterprise. Once these needs are defined, then comes the solutioning. Without knowing a problem, we cannot arrive to a solution. So the definition of needs and recommendation of solutions that basically add value to stakeholders and businesses is what business analysis is all about. And a person who is responsible for eliciting the actual needs from the business, discovering, synthesizing, and analyzing information and data from a variety of sources is what we call as a business analyst. So, in short, a person who is understanding the needs and real world business problems, breaking them down, discovering more use cases, synthesizing and analyzing information to make sure that the stakeholders and the business get what they want is a business analyst. Now that we have understood what business analysis is, again, this is there are technical definitions. There is a lot more to learn. For that, you will have to register for the course. But this is the high level gist. Now that we have understood what business analysis is and what a business analyst does, let's take a look at who can be a business analyst, or rather, how to be a business analyst. What you see here are two areas. On the left-hand side, we have knowledge areas, and on the right-hand side, we have underlying competencies. Let's begin with knowledge areas. Now, these knowledge areas, so we have 6 high-level knowledge areas in this representation. What do they stand for? What do they represent? Well, in order to be a good business analyst, one needs to have knowledge of certain specific areas. One of them is elicitation and collaboration. Remember, it's a balancing act. You are the connection between the business and the actual technical delivery teams. So you need to first elicit requirements from the businesses, and you need to collaborate with businesses in order to elicit these requirements. So having a knowledge of various techniques and models that are used to elicit and collaborate helps a lot for a business analyst. Once you have gathered these requirements, you need to also ensure that the life cycle of the requirements are managed properly. Now, what do I mean by life cycle management? The moment a business analyst talks to the business is where the requirements are elicited. Once that happens, the business analyst is also responsible to ensure if there are any changes that happen, because businesses are constantly evolving, business problems change. The prioritization of an issue that seems like a blocker today might become a non-issue tomorrow. So maintaining that life cycle, keeping an eye on the whole cycle of these requirements, starting from gathering of requirements to the delivery of the product, is basically requirements lifecycle management. There is one more area, which is strategy analysis. There are some business analysts who solely focus on the long-term strategy. They focus on how a company, a product, a particular project can be taken to the next level. Then comes requirement analysis and design definition. Now, we have done the elicitation, we have done the collaboration, we've gathered the requirements. Now we need to analyze the requirements too. And once these requirements are analyzed, a definition of this problem needs to be put out. Basically, create a problem statement, because without a problem statement, getting a solution becomes really difficult. And the next stage is solution evaluation. Once you have your problem statement defined, you figure out a solution. And you also see whether that solution is the most viable and most efficient of many other possible solutions. It's quite possible that a problem might have multiple solutions. So figuring out the most viable, the most efficient solution is also the responsibility of a business analyst. Once solution evaluation is done, constant planning and monitoring is a part of this whole process. So as I mentioned before, as part of requirements lifecycle management, you need to see the requirements through. And there is a possibility that there might be changes in the business. There might be new use cases that become more critical. So that Planning and monitoring is a constant process that keeps on occurring throughout the life cycle. Now, these are the knowledge areas, and CBAP provides a very extensive, detailed list of techniques and methods that can be used to improve upon these knowledge areas, which is going to be part of your CBAP certification program. Apart from that, on the right hand side, what it talks about is underlying competencies. Now, these are skills and competencies that are expected to be in a particular a person interested in the business analysis role. Now, what are these? Let's start with behavioral characteristics. Remember, being a business analyst means being on the front lines. You are the face of that organization. You are the person who is going to interact with businesses and clients. So, certain behavioral characteristics are vital to this role. For example, communication skills is a different aspect, but while communicating, you need to be polite. You need to be a good listener. One needs to ensure that there is an aspect of conflict resolution. Like all areas of life, businesses and problem solving for businesses comes with its own share of conflicts. So a good business analyst ensures that there is always proper conflict resolution wherever a situation arises. So those traits, those behavioral characteristics play a vital role for a business analyst in discharging his duties. Then comes business knowledge. Now, this is an area which cannot, I mean, a person cannot be expected to have a business knowledge on day one. This is a skill this is a competency which is gained over time. The more time you spend in a particular domain, the more experience you get in a particular business domain, the more better you have an understanding of that particular business. Let me give you an example. Now, I'm a business analyst, and my special area of specialty is content solutions. You take me, put me into, say, a banking or a finance domain, I might do a lot of other things, but I will still lag a little bit when it comes to the banking and finance sector. So, a person who has the business knowledge will prove to be a better business analyst in solving the problems of that particular business. Next, we have communication skills, listening to the users, listening to the end users, listening to the business. So there is always a difference of opinion when it comes to the end users and the business owners. So listening to both parties, understanding the requirements, hearing is easy, but listening and understanding is a vital skill. Then communicating the understanding to the technical delivery teams. Understanding a problem and its use case and coming up with a solution is one part, but making sure that that information is translated in an easy and understandable way to the technical delivery teams is also a vital skill. So that's communication skills. Interaction skills. Now, not very dissimilar from communication skills, but this is where your first time interactions come into play. You are a business analyst. You go out to a client company to understand their requirements. You are going to meet a lot of people for the first time. And as they say, first impression is the last impression. So you have to have those interaction skills to, once you meet a person for the first time, you have to make your mark. So the interaction skills and techniques play a very vital role as part of the role of a business analyst. And then comes tools and technology. Everything is driven by technology today. So we have a lot of tools and technologies, especially applications and software, which make the life of a business analyst a little bit easier. Maintaining lots and lots of information on whiteboards or on post-it notes might become difficult. So there are applications, examples like Jira and Soho that you might have heard of, who provide project management tools, requirement management tools, so on and so forth. And then the most vital of all is analytical thinking and problem solving. End of the day, the primary task of a business analyst is to understand a problem and come up with the most viable and efficient solution. And critical thinking, analytical thinking is something which is very much helpful for any business analyst. In the center, what you see are various areas where all of these knowledge areas and underlying competencies can be used and utilized. Agile, information technology, business architecture, business intelligence. We'll take a deeper look in the next slide. Now that you have understood what it means or what it requires for a person to be a business analyst, your next question, you might have a question. You might say, where do I go from being a business analyst? What is the scope for a business analyst? Well, it's like a web. As you can see, there is a wide variety of roles where a business analyst can easily fit in. Let's break this down bit by bit. On the right hand side, mostly the dark to dark orange to light orange colors is where the focus of the business analyst is business focused. And on the left hand side, you have technology focused. So a business analyst can be technology focused or business focused. What's the difference, you might ask? Well, there are pathways. For example, as a business analyst, you are really good at managing people. You are really good at managing time. You are really good at ensuring deliveries happen on time. You can choose the pathway of product management. You become a project manager, you handle people. The next level, you manage the whole product, starting from budgets to ensuring leads to everything in between. Is the responsibility of a product manager for that particular product. And if you have multiple products under your bucket, you become a portfolio manager. Agile. If you are an expert in Agile, if you have done extensive certifications and have working knowledge of Agile, you can take the Agile route. You manage scrums, you ensure Agile ceremonies, you make sure releases happen according to CI/CD, which is basically a controlled way of releases, ensuring timely deployments. And end of the day, you end up as a product owner. So the difference between a product manager and a product owner is not much. The only difference is a product owner is not responsible for administrative duties of the members of the team. The product owner's sole responsibility is the product, whereas a product manager takes care of the administrative duties of the members of the team as well. Similarly, you have design thinking, where so if you are a little bit so now we are moving towards technology focus. So if you are a little bit technology enthusiast, if you know programming, if you're a good coder, you can actually move towards business architecture. So you can become a business architect. So now this is not completely technology oriented. This is still business focused, but you come up with business plans. You design the business plans. And the next level for this is being a strategist. So you can be a consultant, you can work with organizations, help them to move to the next level. Coming to the left hand side, technology focus. These days, everything is data driven. Wherever we go, we are leaving behind data. And that data can be analyzed and utilized for a varied set of purposes. One can start as a data modeler and move on to become a data scientist, whose primary role is to basically sift through data, use various data analytics techniques, regression models, come up with predictive models, and end of the day, provide real world solutions to real world problems. Now, the next is business intelligence. Again, very similar. So if you see on the left hand side, business data analytics, business intelligence, machine learning, and artificial intelligence analysis, all these three are very closely interlinked. So business, as a data scientist, you primarily work with data models. But as a business intelligence expert, business intelligence analyst, your primary roles and responsibilities are managing that data, governing that data. And as a machine learning or artificial intelligence analyst, your primary job is to use that data with algorithms to come up with real world solutions to real world problems. So The algorithms are built by machine learning experts, machine learning scientists. The data comes from data analytics guys, that's data scientists and data analysts. And the business intelligence analysts make sure that the management of this data happens according to set guidelines. The next aspect is cloud or SaaS application management. Now, what is SaaS? So, any application, any software that you see can be classified into two components. It can be either called a product or it can be either called a service. So the core difference between the two is, for example, Microsoft Word is a product. You Microsoft has built this application. It has sold the application to the users. Whereas when it comes to service, the whole product is not sold. Just a service is sold or licensed. So SaaS stands for software as a service. And these days, most of our applications are set up. So the days of hard servers with towers are gone. Yes, organizations do have hard servers, but mostly as backup. Most of the software is set up on cloud. So having a very good understanding of cloud and software as services helps a lot as well for a business analyst. So for those who are technically inclined, you can take the path of SaaS architects or cloud architects. You can be a cloud or SaaS manager, ending up as senior product manager. So we will see a lot of these paths always end up at the end. They all converge at one point. So we will see that convergences a bit later. And finally, we have cybersecurity analysis. So remember, there are good guys and there are bad guys. And the products or softwares that you make, you have to ensure the safety of them. So cybersecurity is very vital to any application development. And you have network security analysts, you have information security analysts, you have cybersecurity analysts. The difference being information security, if you retain a lot of customer data, you have to ensure certain protocols are followed. Same applies for cybersecurity and network security. So you can choose that path and be a cybersecurity consultant at the end of the day. Now that you have an understanding of what all can be achieved, what all roles are, what all titles are available. Remember, I make this distinction. We will come back to this later. Let's take a look at real world job titles. You might say all this is well and good, but what will be my designation? Well, let's take a look at that. See, now this representation is a very common representation. It is a generic representation of the job titles that are used most commonly. But every job title is customizable. There are organizations which might call the same role with a different name. So do not take this by heart, but this is the general job title designations that are there in the industry. So as a BA, there are two primary pathways. You focus as a business BA or an agile BA. If you are a business BA, you move on to senior BA, you move on to business architect, designing business solutions, workflow management systems, so on and so forth. And then you become a senior business architect. If you follow the agile route, it's a bit shorter. You directly move on to being a product owner. Then you can become a manager. So if you have done your job well as a product owner, the only addition is basically managing the administrative duties of your team. So you can become a manager or a team lead. And after that, it evolves into PMO director. We'll come to that later. If you are more on the technology side, if you are a good programmer, if you like coding, you can start as a BSA. Now, BSA is not very different. The full form stands for Business Solutions Architect, Analyst, my bad. And as a BSA, you move on to being a senior BSA. Then you can become a technical architect. The difference, remember, there's a difference here. A business architect is an architect of business processes, whereas a technical architect is an architect of the systems, applications that are being designed. And end of the day, you end up as an enterprise architect with multiple products under your belt. On the extreme left, you have the starting point as a project management executive. You move and become a senior project manager. Then you can move and become a program manager, and then again end up as a product manager. Now the differences here are again similar to manager. They also involve managing of administrative duties of the teams. And end of the day, all of them converge on the level of, so on the business side it's business director, on the technical side it's PMO director, and after that it's the same VP, SVP. Business side it's CEO, on the technology side it's CIO. So this is basically the high level of pathways that you can take up uh, and grow. But if you look at this diagram a little bit closely, the growth is not always vertical. I mean, it's not a linear path. From a senior BA, you can always transition into a senior project manager. From a senior BA, you can become a product owner. Or from a product owner, you can always become an architect. So the pathways are both lateral and upward. So you can choose any time at the point of your career based on your skill sets to choose the path of your choice. Moving on. Now that we have understood the concepts of business analysis, we have seen the scope of this domain of business analysis, and we have witnessed how one can grow into various job titles and roles. Let's remind ourselves that roles and job titles are two distinct things. One must never confuse a role with a job title. Being a business analyst is a role. It's not a job title. As I mentioned before, organizations might have different titles. Every organization might have its own set of titles. These role names represent the various tasks, techniques, and knowledge that is required by an individual to be successful in that position. We have seen a lot of examples. We have seen the examples for requirements analyst. We have seen the requirements for a systems analyst. So there are so many analyst roles, but end of the day, it's the role which takes precedent over the job titles. Job titles will come automatically. The second thing we analyzed today or went through today was the competencies. So now there's a little bit more to it. The infographic that I showed to you covered only a few competencies. If you take the course, the IABA certification course, IABA has classified 53 performance or discipline competencies specific to a role of a business analyst. So I would highly recommend take this course, get to know all of them, because it will be very helpful in your career as a business analyst. And finally, there is a self-assessment test that you can always take. Now remember, this self-assessment is it's not a free service. You can log on to the IABA website and become a member of IABA. You will get the details of the charges and everything on the IABA website. And if you become the member of IABA, you can actually take a 30-question self-assessment tool, which will evaluate your competencies and put you in, it'll let you know, or it will give you a direction or under which role would you be most suitable for. I guess that concludes the session, and I hope this brief 30-minute session has given you some insights and has given you a direction if you want to choose the role of a business analyst as your career. And I would highly recommend to take the CBAP course, because this is just a 30-minute session and the knowledge that is there is so vast that it cannot be covered in 30 minutes. But I hope this helps. And now I'll open it for Q&A. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have 2 minutes left, so let's restrict the number of questions to 5. You can just type it in the chat. And in case you have any questions, you can forward it later to the team, and I can get back to you later via mail as well. Okay, so that's okay. If you don't have any questions now, as I mentioned, please forward your questions and queries. I'll be happy to help and send back the replies on mail as well. Thank you. Thank you for joining the session. Have a great evening and have a great weekend. Shweta, you'll take it. Hello.